And welcome to another episode of Fight Night Picks Kicks. Be sure to head on over to the website, fightnightpicks.com. We've got our previews and predictions. We also have the full card betting guide for this weekend. Edwards versus Muhammad. All kinds of great stuff over there. The best bets, the pop and popcorn fights, underdogs to consider, all brought to you by our own Joshua Hart. But what I want to show you this weekend is from now, March 13th, all the way through to March 20th, over on the store, we've got a promotion going on. Use the promo code FNP25. You're going to save 25% off your order. So if I'm going to pick the Under Armour hat, I've got 12 of them in stock here in lovely Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. Hit to view the cart. You got your total there. Enter your coupon code FNP25. Apply that code, and look at that. Boom goes the dynamite, $8.75 off that hat. It's a great deal now until March 20th. Promo code FNP. You're going to save 25% off your order. That's a great deal. Without further ado, let's get into it.
Ladies and gentlemen, recorded in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada, it's time for Fight Night Picks with your host, Craig and Matt Allen.
And how good it is, Matt, to be back again for another week of Fight Night Picks Kicks, hanging out with everybody in the chat, previewing this entire card. If this is your first time joining us, hey, we appreciate you. One half of your hosting duo, Craig Allen. You can find me at Craig Allen FNP on Twitter and Instagram. Matt at Matt Allen FNP on Twitter and Instagram. Matt, I think a lot of people are sleeping on this card, but if we can head into the chat really quick. Laos Non's hanging out. Oh, Jace is here. Clay's here.
What's up, guys?
Voo Dude, Ocean, Connor Murray saying, what's up, boys? We also had the super chat earlier on from Todd. Todd, we appreciate you and everybody that supports the channel over in the super chat, because as you know, this show is going to get straight up lit. I mean, it just gets lit. And listen, it gets pretty busy because, yeah, the chat goes kind of crazy and sometimes it's hard to follow. But we're going to do our best. Todd's still hanging out, Phoenix Graves, and everybody over there, including Eldar and Sean McMinn. So, Matt, like I said from the start, film the new little intro. We've got a great sale from now until next weekend. FNP 25, you're going to save 25% off your order. We got hats. What else do we have? The shirts that I took a bad picture of, but they look like MLG gaming shirts. We got those too. We got the baseball jerseys. Look at that. Fight Night Picks baseball jersey.
It's all good looking.
There's Under Armour shirts. There's all kinds of great stuff over there. And listen, there's a shirt that I have on too. So all kinds of great stuff. FightNightPicks.com. You go over to the store. We got the full card betting guides. All of that great stuff is over there. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well. Hopefully I can ship out quite a bit of merch there this week. But Matt, we have a great card, and overall we're going to go top to bottom with this one. We're going to talk about our fight of the night picks as well. But again, we look at this one, awesome main event, Belal Muhammad being just a true gentleman. Taking this fight on somewhat a short notice. Picked up a huge win against Diego Lima his last time out, just a few weeks ago, really. Taking on Leon Edwards that looks absolutely like he's been training out of Arizona, because this guy's fight ready.
He really is. And Leon Edwards, you like to see it when a guy does have a really lengthy layoff. You never want to hear stories of, oh, they weren't really training and they didn't really dedicate themselves. Leon Edwards looks massive all of a sudden. Like, physically, he's never been the biggest welterweight in the world, but he does seem like he's filled out his frame quite a bit. And you don't just need those pictures of his legs to show it. Him on weigh-in day, he looked huge. And compared to Belal Muhammad, who is... he's not a big welterweight. He's not a small welterweight. Like, he's just a good size for the weight division. Leon Edwards looked massive compared to him. So I think Belal Muhammad has an uphill battle tonight. But really good card top to bottom. And it's kind of funny. Our mom asked me, are there many Canadians who fight in the UFC? And I had to ask myself, not really, but about half of them are fighting on tonight's card, and it's really nice that Canada does have a bit of a showcase card tonight, if you will.
Yeah, it's awesome to see. I mean, Serkinov, Jourdain, and then the man himself, Gavin Tucker, on this main card. Should be a great one. So we'll flip it over to our Fight of the Night screen, which is always presented by Manscaped. And you're going to hear me talk about my balls, of course, in every live show and every fight preview. But we look at this, I mean, we've got a great one there featuring 1/3 of our Canadians. You have Dan Ige taking on Gavin Tucker. what an awesome fight. Both guys style for style match up so well.
Because they can both do everything, and that's what makes this fight so fun. Can Gavin Tucker strike? Yeah, he's really, really good at it. And when he does dedicate himself to using his feet, he can replicate some of that Dominic Cruz-esque movement that you see. But Dan Ige, really great, just jack of all trades. You know him for his wrestling, but he's got big power in his hands too. Really good boxer, really good fundamentals too. And this is a great matchup for Gavin Tucker to get introduced into the top 15 of featherweight. He's a guy who is just dripping with talent, but he is finally getting his opportunity against one of the bigger names in the division.
Matt D hitting us up in the
Thank
super
you.
chat with the $10. Appreciate the work you guys are putting in every week. Always look forward to the show. Appreciate that. Incoming rug pull with a good point. I mean, yeah, I agree with you. There's no locks on this card, and it is a really tricky one. For me, I will have a Fight Night Picks kicks parlay. It's going to be closer to the end of the show, so stay tuned with that as always. Now, Matt, again, I love this fight, and we'll talk about it in more detail, but Marcelo Rojo coming in here on short notice, taking on Charles Jourdain out of Beloit, Quebec, Canada. I love the fight because, listen, I think there's that residual kind of Charles Jourdain. He finished Duho Choi. He was from Busan. It was a big card, and everybody loves the Canadian for his all-action style. But Marcelo Rojo coming in here from Combate, this guy's all-action too. It should be a great fight.
There's not a lot of guys who in their UFC debut, they get an intro package on the ESPN's main Instagram page, and they were blasting the Marcelo Rojo, let's see if I can get it in the cameras, that Velociraptor taunt that he does. He's just a fun fighter to watch, and he's either going to get finished on the feet because of his crazy striking style, or he's going to knock you out on the feet because of his crazy striking style. This fight has excitement all over it, and like you said, Charles Jourdain is another one of these fighters. He's going to get knocked out or knock you out trying to get knocked out. There's not really much of an in-between. Both guys have surprisingly good cardio, too, for power punchers, so I think this is going to be an absolutely amazing fight.
Get knocked out or lose a split decision or go to a draw against Joshua Culibao when you're 4-1 favorite. So, again, overall, it should be an awesome card. And like I said, we'll start at the bottom of it and go through every single fight one more time. And we'll spend quite a bit of time because the fights don't start for 2 hours. We planned this well, and the UFC didn't do the old bait and switch at the end, which I like. So we'll focus on the entire thing. And Matt, the first fight on this card, well, it isn't Edwards and Muhammad. It's Matthew Semelsberger taking on Jason Witt. Love the fight. I think a lot of people were a little critical of a couple of things in our breakdown. So we'll talk about them and let us know what you're thinking about this one in the comments section. There's 205 of you watching right now. Only 48 likes. You got to toss that like. You got to toss that sub as always. But they were kind of critical on the fact that, listen, Matt Semelsberger, he used to be a high school wrestler up in the higher weight classes. We talked about the fact he was a strong safety weighing 225 pounds. He was a thickie up there playing football.
Big guy.
And then you look at kind of what he's done in fighting. Well, he's fought in different weight classes. He fought at light heavyweight when he was an amateur against William Knight. We didn't talk about that in the preview because we spent so much time on Matt Semelsberger when he made his debut against Carlton Minus. When Semelsberger weighed in for this one, he actually weighed under 170 pounds. It was what, 169.5? Little bit of a surprise to me, but he's kind of grown down or into the weight class,
Yeah.
I would say. He's got a lot of power. Cardio might not be his strongest of suit, but the problem for me with Matt Semelsberger is, yes, he has a football background. A lot of football guys can defend the takedown. I know it's a generalization, but for the most part, they can.
Ask Greg Hardy how he did against Tabora.
Yeah, well, he's a bit of an anomaly. He's a fast twitch guy. And if you look at Semelsberger in some of his amateur fights, even with CFFC just a couple of years ago, it was kind of his kryptonite. For me, Jason Witt has such good offensive wrestling. He can get knocked out. You got to watch out for that. Semelsberger could win this one, and I think if he would, maybe you like him by decision, maybe you like him by knockout. But I like the underdog in this fight, and I'm still holding steady with it now.
I do like Jason Witt in this fight. He's got great MMA wrestling. It's not just great wrestling, and it was kind of interesting. I never listened to the Joe Rogan podcast, but one of the clips, because Derek Lewis was on, he was talking about the style of wrestling that Curtis Blades has, and the way that he was able to time his uppercut was that Curtis Blades doesn't get down and then shoot. He shoots as he's lowering his base, and that's taking time for an uppercut. Jason Witt doesn't really give you that opportunity. If you're going to knock him out, it will be at striking range. And defensively, he can kind of use his wrestling to hide his head. I like the offensive wrestling of Jason Witt. I like his top control, too. I do like Witt in this fight.
I got to go up to the comment by Matty B. This is coin flip, but why is Witt been an underdog all week? So let's talk about that, because Matt Semelsberger opened at a plus 106. He dropped all the way down to a minus 155, and as the week's gone on from, well, Saturday of last week until Saturday today, you had Semelsberger go from minus 151 up to a minus 123. So yes, he's one of the bigger movers and shakers, but the money this week has been on Jason Witt. So hopefully that kind of helps answer that question. I know Keith's saying Semelsberger has more muscle on his frame. He can cut more weight and look huge tonight. Kyle Kelly's saying that you believe the Jedi knocks out Witt. 100%. I mean, the other one, Michigoni, great point. Mullets are 1-4 in their last 5. Tim Elliott's the only winner. He just knocked Jordan Espinosa right out of the UFC. See you later.
Bye.
So, again, yeah, this is a really tricky one. It honestly is. If we look over at Fight Night Picks on Instagram, we always put those pictures up on Saturday morning. You can get your votes out there. And listen, Matt, I mean, it was close. 53% Witt to 47 Semelsberger. So, again, I'm going Witt. You're going Witt. Any final thoughts here?
Not really. It should be a good fight to open the night, but I do think Witt's the better wrestler.
Shane Stallings hitting up the super chat there.
You,
Shane, we appreciate you, Matt. Let's move on to our next fight. We have Gloria De Paula coming in here off her Contender Series opportunity. She had Maeda Buena Silva in her corner. I'm assuming she's going to have Maeda Buena Silva in her corner this time as well. Both of them training out of Shoot the Box Diego Lima down in Brazil. And Matt, for Gloria De Paula, I mean, looked amazing in that fight. She did a good job of wrestling defense against a great black belt judo practitioner, one of the best that you're going to find in some of the lower weight classes in Pauline Macias. And if you look at Jinh Frey, or Frey rather, I mean, 1-3 in her last, 1-3 in her last 4. She's lost her last 2 in the UFC. Kay Hansen, tough one. Lost to Loma Lookboonmee the last time. And Loma, listen, I mean, if you talk about somebody that grew up in a Muay Thai gym, it's Loma. But I mean, listen, Gloria De Paula's got great Muay Thai herself.
Jinh Frey has not looked good in the UFC. That's it. That's the tweet. It's kind of the case. She's very undersized. And yes, she's super ripped and looks very physically strong for the weight class, but she is so undersized that she can't really use her strength as that much of an advantage. She doesn't have the best wrestling in the world, and she can get out-muscled in the clinch by equally sized fighters. And the fact that Gloria De Paula is quite the big strawweight as it is, she could have a really hard time getting to her spots. And I know that's a bit of a basketball term, like Kawhi Leonard has his spots. He's got the mid-range jumper over the shoulder and whatnot. Jinh Frey needs to get this on the ground and needs to get in top position to really make the most of her MMA skill set. The problem is I just don't think she has the physical strength to get the fight to those positions. And Gloria De Paula can keep this fight at such a range that it's going to be really hard for Frey to get on the inside. And I do see De Paula just kind of beating her up at range throughout this fight.
Yeah, it's a really tough one. I mean, Voodoo Wiz saying TBH, all these fights tonight could go either way. The only lock is Edwards IMO. Some close fights. Yeah, it's a tricky one if you're Jinh Frey in this one. I mean, if you look at the odds, you got Gloria De Paula open to -133, now at a -194 for Jinh Frey, open to +111. She's now a +161 underdog. And listen, I mean, she comes out of a great gym at Fortis MMA, but it just really hasn't come together in the UFC. 67% of voters at Fight Night Picks going with De Paula. I'm going with De Paula.
All day.
Yeah, I mean, I do not have Jinh Frey in this one. I'm not throwing it on the QMK parlay, but I do like De Paula enough. I'm just a little hesitant on it. Same as our next fight, Matt. We have Courtney Casey taking on JJ Aldrich. And listen, Aldrich looked great on the scales. I thought that was awesome. And, that's great for her moving forward. She might forever be the prospect. She's been on a couple of big pay-per-views. UFC 227 on the main card. UFC 246, the McGregor-Cerrone card. She was on the prelims. She's had her opportunities to shine. She looked good against Vienna, which, I mean, at 125, wasn't the biggest deal. But she's lost a really good competition. Courtney Casey, on the other hand, has lost a good competition in close fights. She's beaten decent competition. She's been very inconsistent. So this one, to me, is a really tough one here.
I think JJ Aldrich beats the brakes off Courtney Casey. I really do. I think she's the much bigger fighter. And again, Courtney Casey's another fighter who does need the takedown at some point to really make the most out of her striking. Because as a striker, she's not a bad striker. She has good technique, but she's not a very powerful striker. And it's not like she can overwhelm you with her volume. So she is going to mix in the takedown to try to win the decision at some point. JJ Aldrich, the much more physically strong out of the two. She has the better striking, the much heavier hands in this fight too. And I do think if Courtney Casey wants to strike, which she's going to have to do at some point in this fight, she's going to be standing in the pocket with JJ Aldrich, who can throw big, powerful hooks. And yes, against the highest level of competition, she might not be able to land those shots, but Courtney Casey is somewhat flat-footed. She's not going to be able to dart in and out of position like she's seen Wonderboy Thompson. I think she's going to be there to be hit, and I do think that damage is going to accumulate as this fight progresses. I actually really like JJ Aldrich in this fight, and I don't think it's the case of she's this pumped-up prospect, because I don't think she's the biggest prospect in the UFC. I just think you look at where Courtney Casey is in her career, I don't know how she wins this fight. I just know at some point she's going to need the takedown, and I think Aldrich is the better wrestler.
Yeah, I mean, I have a look at the odds for this one as this week's gone on, and I mean, you talk about JJ Aldrich being the prospect, so on and so forth. Open to minus 165. The money came in on Casey, and then later on in the week on Aldrich. He's now at a minus 151. If you have a look at Courtney Casey, round about a plus 125. She opened at a plus 145. If we have a look at the votes, 177 for Casey to 162 for Aldrich. So it's 52 to 48. It's very, very close. Lesher wants the boys to go slow. James Sturt's asking if there's any cancellations. There's not. And for the people asking if there's going to be a QMK parlay, as always, but if you want the QMK parlay, you got to toss the like and you have to be subscribed. Come on. You're never going to know what's going on if you don't have the notification bell on and you don't know when the show goes early. So, yeah, you look at this. I mean, Voodoo Wiz says, I have Casey parlayed with Hill. There's a few people kind of going both ways. And I mean, you see some people going like Eldar, JJ is better and that's it. Phoenix saying that JJ Aldrich is a lock. Baza Raphael saying Aldrich. It's a tricky one. We were split on this one at the start of the week too.
Yeah, no, I'm still pretty confident in the Aldrich pick. I like her takedown defense. I like her striking on the feet. I think she can damage Courtney Casey as this fight goes on, and I don't know what Courtney Casey can do to really damage JJ Aldrich in this fight.
To me, I look at it this way, and I might, honestly, I'm going to change my pick on this one, because Courtney Casey, again, she's hung in there with very good fighters. You can see that when she's on the ground, she's always busy, but her takedown defense isn't superb. JJ Aldrich isn't either. But I mean, if you really consider all the parts and parcels of Aldrich's game, she's a little bit more busy. She's normally applying the pressure. She's normally putting a pace on her opponents. So I'm going to switch my pick here, and I'm going to go with JJ Aldrich away from Casey. It's a really tough one. I mean, if I was going with something, maybe you want to go with like an over in this one, because it's a close enough fight for me, enough to change my pick. Over 1.5 rounds is minus 800, so maybe you're going crazy. You're thinking of it that way, but yeah, I'm going to switch over to Aldrich in this fight, and we'll continue on with the videos. So, Matt, we got Nasrat Haqparast taking on Rafa Garcia. This is one of the fights that, when it was announced, I got excited about it because we had talked about Rafa Garcia back a number of months ago. It was in October of last year, and I had Rafa Garcia as one of those guys that you should watch out for. Maybe the UFC signs him. We've had some Combate guys come in and make immediate impacts. I mean, Gustavo Lopez, great article with Gustavo, who's got a fight coming up against Adrian Yanez.
That's a good one.
Our own Joshua Hart had an article and a conversation with him at FightNightPicks.com just, last week. So, Gustavo Lopez making an impact. You have two fighters from Combate fighting here in Rafa Garcia, as well as Marcelo Rojo. But for Garcia, kind of fought it out and then wanted to get signed. And now finally he gets the opportunity against Nasrat Haqparast. But I want to know what people are thinking here over on this fight. And let us know what you're thinking over in the chat. Because, man, it was an overwhelming sea of Haqparast fans this week.
It's a really hard fight for Rafa Garcia in this fight. It really is, because he's fighting a borderline top 15 lightweight on a week's notice, and that's hard for any fighter to do. Now, Garcia does have really great ground skills. He's got decent takedowns. My issue is the fact that he throws these massive looping shots that leave him wide open to be countered. And Nasrat Haqparast has great footwork. It's not just his boxing. It's not just his hand speed. He has good footwork, too. Now, it gets him in trouble sometimes. He's not always the best at closing distance. He can walk into a big shot. But Garcia's punches look like they are moving through water. He is not the fastest striker at all. And he doesn't have the best cardio either. And for Nasrat Haqparast, he's a guy who can keep a very high output throughout a fight, and he does have really good cardio too. So I think Rafa Garcia can go on to have a very nice career in the UFC. I just think this is a really hard fight to get his UFC career started off with.
Voodoo Wiz hitting up the super chat saying, keep up the good work, boys. Y'all are easy to listen to with good knowledge and breakdowns. Let's get into it. Austin saying you might take Rafa Garcia. Who else up there? Guz Box saying, yeah, I feel dumb and picking Garcia. It's a tricky one. I mean, Adnan makes a good point. He is undefeated, and he is a very good fighter. Listen, Haqparast fought a good wrestler his last time out, got taken down once against Alex Munoz, and then beat him up on the feet, and looked amazing in that one. And you look at Rafa Garcia, very heavy-handed. He has pretty good wrestling. He has pretty good submission abilities, and usually he's able to put out some of the lower-ranked fighters. Now, again, he took on Ghost Pepper his second to last fight, and he looked really good against Eryk Gonzalez. He looked good against Humberto Bandenay, who really didn't get it going. Like, he just didn't in that fight. It was all Rafa Garcia pushing a good pace against Bandenay. The problem for me is, When Garcia goes hard in the first, he slows down in the second, he slows down in the third. I know he's been away for a really long time. He trains out of the training lab with the Dillashaws, and Syed Awad used to be there, and so on and so forth. He's been training at Ruka Sport for this one with BJ Penn. So BJPenn.com, who, listen, some of the publications are saying, is BJ Penn going to take a fight sometime?
I hope not.
I hope not too. But yeah, I mean, I look at this one. I've got Nasrat Haqparast overwhelmingly. He's a big favorite in this one as well. He's a fan favorite, which really doesn't have anything to do with the pick. But I mean, Nasrat Haqparast right now, he opened a minus 385. He's a minus 542. For Garcia, open a plus 265. He's now a plus 396. And over on Tapology, 2,646 votes, 87% Haqparast, 57% by knockout. I'm going with Germany by way of Afghanistan here. I'm going Nasrat Haqparast.
I would argue by stoppage, too. I do think his boxing is that big of an X factor in this fight.
Keith is saying, thinking about buying the Fight Night Picks hat. Do I have one in hand? Well, truly, I took a picture of it to put it on the website. That's why the picture doesn't look all that good. But there's the hat. So you get the Fight Night Picks logo. It's an Under Armour hat. It's adjustable. And you have the Canadian Maple Leaf on the back. So it's pretty cool stuff. I wear that one quite often when I'm not wearing the shirt. But yeah, I mean, I'm going with Haqparast here. Matt, let's get ready for our next fight. And this is one of my favorite fighters to watch. We have Ronnie Yahya, and it's an odd guy to kind of pick, but this is a guy that really I've been following his career for a very long time. He's a WEC original. He made his debut in the UFC, beat Coach Mike Brown. He has huge wins on his record. Out of his 20 submission wins, he's done them 12 different ways. That's amazing. You want a really good Ronnie Yahya fight? I know it's going to hurt your feelings. It's probably the Luke Sanders fight. Like, Luke Sanders either knocks out jiu-jitsu artists or gets completely just submitted.
Not much of an in-between either.
No, Luke Sanders, all and everything. But Ronnie Yahya coming into this one, he falls off a cliff in the third round and typically loses third rounds by 2 points. He loses 10-8. You're taking on Ray Rodriguez, a guy that got finished in 39 seconds by Brian Kelleher in his UFC debut. He's lost by submission to some decent fighters. I honestly think this is a good opportunity for Ray Rodriguez. I will say, I'm siding with Ronnie Yahya, but I, honest to goodness, don't feel totally confident in the pick because Yahya's 36. The odds are heavily skewed in Yahya's way. The fan votes heavily in Yahya's way. And we've seen Ray Rodriguez finish submission artists in some of the lower weight classes. Go watch his knockout of Jimmy Flick where he just jumps up the middle with a jump knee, starts hammering away at him. He completely finishes him and looks amazing. So I will go with Yahya, but I can see Rodriguez winning this.
If you want to oversimplify this fight, all Ray Rodriguez needs to do is defend takedowns in the first round. And that's it. Because if you can make Ronnie work enough in that first round, his cardio won't just be bad in the third. It is going to start to drop off in that second round. If you're Rodriguez, you're the much heavier-handed striker. If you do connect on Ronnie, he is going to go down. And even Ricky Simone, who doesn't have great striking, was able to drop Ronnie Yahya. The difference is that Ricky Simone has great takedown defense, and he's a phenomenal grappler himself. That's how he normally wins fights. Ronnie should be able to get the takedown and win this by submission. I see him completely overwhelming Rodriguez on the ground. But again, for Rodriguez, you make him work in that first round. You at least be sound enough defensively to not get into terrible positions, to not get 1080 yourself in that first round. And if you can make it to the third, I think you can TKO Ronnie Yahya. I don't think it's an impossible task, but I do think Ronnie can do enough in those first two rounds to get himself out to a big enough lead to either win the third or lose the third by as little to not get 1080'd, if you will. But I do think Ronnie should be able to win this fight.
And everybody kind of mentioning the Bontarin fight against Kai Kara-France. I mean, Bontarin was a good striker, kind of similar to Yahya, and that's where this is going to sound weird. Ronnie Yahya has a Muay Thai background. If you watch him strike, he keeps his head on the center line, but he will move forward to try and close the distance with his striking. He actually does a pretty good job of it. He has good takedowns, but Ray Rodriguez's striking isn't close to Kai Kara-France. It's not the same. Those two things aren't the same. But again, yeah, I do worry about Ronnie Yahya in this fight. I'm going to keep the pick with him, but honest to goodness, wouldn't be surprised if Ray Rodriguez won this one in the least. I keep this off my card. It's a pop and popcorn fight. How many more things do I have to say to make you feel like I'm not confident in this pick? Although I'm sure there's going to be a lot of great people in the comment section if Ray Rodriguez wins. Matt, Jourdain is going to be fighting El Pitbull Marcelo Rojo. And while I don't have it in the picture, Marcelo has a nice tattoo all across his neck. Listen, I myself wouldn't get that tattoo, but kudos to Marcelo Rojo, guys training out of Gym Entram with the likes of the Brandon Morenos of the world and so on and so forth. All sorts of great guys training out of that Tijuana area with Marcelo Rojo coming out of Argentina, taking on the Canadian. And listen, I really do like Charles Jourdain. He is such a good fighter, but he's such a frustrating guy to watch.
He's too hittable. That's the problem. If he was more sound defensively, you like his power, you like his southpaw stance, you like his cardio, you like his takedown defense. There's a lot of things to like about him. But he's one of these fighters who has a hard time putting everything together. And for Jourdain, if he was able to just be more sound defensively and not get dropped at the end of pretty much every round he's ever fought in, I'd like him a lot more. And that's the thing about him. He does have such great power that guys aren't going to want to stand in the pocket with him and play that one-for-one game. But he does leave himself open. So if you are willing to stand in the pocket, and if you're an accurate enough striker, like Marcelo Rojo is, you might be able to stand there and crack him with a shot before he can loop one of his big overhands to you. And that's what's so fun about this fight. If Rojo can get into the pocket, stay somewhat sound defensively himself, and throw an elbow down the middle or come up with a knee, he's going to be able to crack Jourdain. The only problem I have is Jourdain, I thought, beat Andre Fili. It was a close fight. There was a lot that happened on both sides, but he was able to drop Fili, and I thought he did enough to win the fight. Fili is built somewhat like Rojo, where he is one of those longer, lankier guys, and the fact that Jourdain was able to get to him eventually with his power makes me think that he'll be able to do the same in this fight, but we don't have it as a fight of the night because we think it's going to be a super one-sided fight. Like, this is probably going to be your most exciting fight of the whole night.
Hunter Mai, you're scared. I mean, there's a lot of great comments on this one. Eldar saying fight of the night, baby. Ojace Rojo by T-Rex punch. I mean, maybe he will. Finbar City, which fights are popping popcorn? Well, Ronnie, Yahya, Ray Rodriguez, Casey, Aldrich, Hill, and Yoder. Like, there's a lot of popping popcorn on this one. And Voodoo Wiz saying you're passing on this fight. I've only got action on the top two. So we'll go with that. I mean, setting up the question mark kicks parlay. Jacob Weaver saying, just take the under 2.5 rounds as popping popcorn for sure. And this Wildlife saying, let's crack 200 likes, boys. Yeah, do it. All it takes, 2 seconds. Toss that like up there. We would appreciate it. Jack Reinhardt's tuning in. But yeah, you look at Marcelo Rojo, really closes distance very well, throws in combination quite well. He can back his opponents up. He likes to invest in the body. Again, for me, if I was looking at Marcelo Rojo, it was a second to last fight that really impressed me. Now, I get it. It wasn't really against the greatest of competition, or sorry, I should say it's third to last against Jesse Strader. And it was 2 years and 3 months ago. Listen, Strader was 3-0 coming in from the States. He was kind of the bad guy over with Combate. They had a good round. And Strader was throwing some decent punches, but Rojo's pressure really hurt him. He lost to John Castaneda, and you saw how good Castaneda was in that one, and against Eddie Wineland his last time out. And I know he lost to Nathaniel Wood, but listen, it was 3 halfway competitive rounds. But you like the fight out of Rojo his last time out against Victor Madrigal, and then you look at Jourdain so far in the UFC, loses to Des Green up a weight class, his takedown defense isn't all that good against a guy who's really good at wrestling and is used to fighting at 55. Beats Duho Choi, knocks him out, loses to Fili, has that split draw or decision against Josh Culibao. It is tricky to say Jourdain with a lot of confidence too, because you look at the line and he's a decent favorite. I mean, he opened a minus 225, it dropped, and he's about a minus 259 right now. The line pretty much stayed constant all week. For Marcelo Rojo, came in here plus 190, he's now at a plus 208. So I'm going with Canada's own Charles Jourdain. But listen, we saw Jourdain blow it against Culibao last time out.
It was a good fight, though. Like, you keep on saying blow it like he laid an egg. Culibao just fought a really good fight, and it wasn't like Jourdain went out there and looked terrible. He fought a normal Charles Jourdain fight. He's going to get clipped. He's going to hit you with big shots, and that's how it's going to go. I like him in this matchup. I think we got to get rid of the stigma of, oh, he looked terrible against Culibao. I just think it was a really great fight between those guys. You don't win fight of the night by accident. I think Air Jordan's going to win this. I think it's going to be a phenomenal fight, though. I really do.
I'm thinking El Jourdain, we're going to be kicking it to the body all night, and I think that's really going to help him out. Matt, we have Angela Hill taking on Ashley Yoder. I'm taking Angela Hill.
Yeah, that's really all we have to say about this fight. Angela Hill should be fighting people in the top 15.
I mean, for Angela Hill, let's go just one more. We'll be professionals. 80% at Fight Night picks have Hill to win. I mean, let us know what you're thinking. Maybe you're going Yoder. You're going out on a limb. She has gained fight over fight. Her striking's not the best, even though she has a decent base in striking, but really her grappling's gotten a lot better. So maybe she can stymie Angela Hill. I just don't see it here. So we'll skip past it. We talked about this fight, what, 2, 3, 4 times? We're both going with Angela Hill. Our next fight, Matt, I mean, Baza Rafael kind of saying the same thing too. Hill, but no bet. Eryk Anders is taking on Darren Stewart. Love the fight. I think it's a great matchup because Eryk Anders, really slick ground game. pretty good defensively as far as takedowns are concerned. He can march the offense to you. His striking seems to get a little bit better, so I enjoy the fight. Darren Stewart's such a weird guy in this UFC. And you know why? It's because he had that first finish over Francimar Barros where they had to run it back because there was an illegal clash of heads. He'd lose 3 fights in a row, and then he's kind of gone on a tear. The only thing that bugs me is that friggin' fight about this time last year when he took on the cranky old man, and he just got taken down over with Cage Warriors, and it wasn't all that good. And you know who I'm talking about. It's the man, the myth, and the legend, Bartosz Fabinski, and it bugs me. So I worry about him a little bit, but I do still like Darren Stewart here.
Bartosz Fabinski and Eryk Anders share nothing in common. Like, they don't fight the same way at all, so I wouldn't really be all that hung up about that performance. Darren Stewart, great striker, really good power, decent takedown defense until he does fight those elite wrestlers. Eryk Anders has a good ground game, but I don't think he knows that. And that's the crazy thing about Eryk Anders. His easiest way to win a fight is take his opponent down and probably out-grapple them. But he's more than happy to just kind of be trigger-happy and just stand on the outside. If he does that this fight, Darren Stewart will knock him out. I'm confident in that. He can finish Eryk Anders. Eryk Anders, if he is able to maybe up his volume a little bit, he might be able to stymie some of the offense from Darren Stewart on the other side. But I do like Stewart in this fight. He's got decent cardio. He's got good output. He's got great power. I think he'll be able to get the win.
Eldar saying Stewart for the W. Looked good in his last fight. I mean, he had a really good third round against Kevin Holland. It was a close fight. I had the first 2 for Holland, but if we look at the votes, Matt, 75% to 25 in favor of Stewart at Fight Night Picks over on the Instagram. So you got to head over there. You got to keep tossing the likes. 541 as far as viewers right now. 165 total likes. Get them up there. Now, Matt, our next fight, we have my guy, Manel Kape. He was so disappointing in his UFC debut. In the third round, he started to turn it on a little bit, but it was just like, hey, let's go, let's get going, and he didn't. And listen, Pantoja's a great striker, so you gotta give credit where credit's due. But we have another great Brazilian striker here, Matheus Nicolau, and I look at Nicolau. I don't think we're going to see a ton of takedown offense from him. Maybe we do, but his takedown defense is great. It's 100% over his UFC career, and that is important because Nicolau did take on a decent level of competition. Yeah. I mean, he did have a former title challenger on his resume in John Moraga. Nicolau's only issue is sometimes you get kicked and clipped by Dustin Ortiz and finish. Sometimes you get hit by really big power punchers and finish. I think this fight's awesome.
Wait, is Dustin Ortiz a really big... No. This is the problem. Nicolau doesn't have a great chin, and it's not like, oh, he just got stopped in the Ortiz fight. When he gets hit clean, he gets wobbled, and it's just the case. Now, is Kape going to be the weird, hesitant striker that he was in the Pantoja fight? I don't think so, but he might be, because Matheus Nicolau, I don't think he's as good of a striker as Pantoja is, because I think Pantoja has insane power at that weight class. Nicolau's not that far off, though, and his striking style is very similar. The difference is Nicolau does not have the grappling that Pantoja has. You saw what Pantoja was able to do to even Askar Askarov. Yes, Askar won that fight, but you just look at some of the grappling sequences. There was just really high level between those two, and Pantoja held his own against a guy like Askarov. Nicolau does not have that kind of ground game at all, but he does have the really nice power and the really good accuracy that Pantoja has on the feet. If Kape gets hit with a big shot early, he might turn into that hesitant striker, and that's what worries me in this fight. I do think Nicolau, I don't know if he has to drop Manel, but I do think he has to hit him one time clean, really earn his respect on the feet, because Kape is the faster striker, and he's got the far better footwork. So in theory, if he can use his feet to get in and out like we've seen him do in the past, he should be able to win this fight by decision. I just am worried that A, he can walk into a big shot from one of the more powerful guys in the division, and what if Nicolau does try to incorporate his wrestling, and what if he does mix it up with Kape? Because again, with Kape, I do think the key to beating a guy like him is you need to mix it up, be that with your power, with your jiu-jitsu, or with your wrestling. And even if you're not getting the takedowns every time you go for them, I just think putting that in the back of his mind will turn him at least slightly more hesitant. So I think the more Nicolau can do, the better it will be, although I am going to keep my pick with Manel Kape.
Yeah, I am as well. And I mean, a good point being brought up by Scarecrow586 saying somebody said Kape was thrown off by not wearing shoes. I'd say maybe shoes, maybe it's the fact he's not fighting in a ring anymore, he's fighting in a cage, but you got to consider the fact that when he's training in the gym, you're going to be fighting in a cage, you're going to be fighting without shoes, so you got to kind of take it all with a grain of salt, but I do kind of worry about it, you know, Manel Kape, the hesitancy, Matheus Nicolau, if you know anything from him, he's consistently forward motion, a lot of pressure. It's kind of like watching, you know, vintage Thomas Almeida. So,
that's a good call.
Matheus Nicolau, very good fighter. It should be a good fight altogether. And this would have been like the third alternate for fight of the night, I would say. Kape opened to minus 115. He got as low as a minus 149. He's now minus 125. Slight underdog is Matheus Nicolau Open to -115, now at a +102. So it should be a good one. I'm looking forward to it, but I am going with the Angolan and Portuguese Manel Kape. Matt, our next fight, Jonathan Martinez, J-Mart taking on a man who's still in the Navy, but no, he isn't. Davy Grant. Now, Davy's on a win streak.
He is.
And he's looked good in these fights.
He has.
And Davy's hands are coming together.
Oh, better than ever, some might say.
And we're late in Mr. Grant's career, and I love it. A guy representing SBG Bishop Auckland. I'd like to know if anybody in the chat's ever been to Bishop Auckland. I can't say I have, but Davy Grant representing. This is a really tough test for anybody, though.
Jonathan Martinez is a future top 15 in whatever weight class he decides to settle in. If he's going to be a lifelong featherweight, I do think he can get in the top 15 at featherweight. And if he can make weight like he seemed to do somewhat easily yesterday, it wasn't a tough weight cut by Jonathan Martinez standards, and a tough weight cut for him would be missing by 5 pounds. But if you have a dedicated Jonathan Martinez at 135 with his level of striking, with his footwork, with his power, I have no idea what Davy Grant's going to do in this fight. I think he has better wrestling, maybe. But Jonathan Martinez is really good at making guys pay for their takedown attempts. He's really good at using the cage as a way to defend takedowns. He's got great knees coming up the middle. I know we talked about that a lot in the Benitez breakdown. Then it actually happens, so we look like geniuses. But it's true. Jonathan Martinez is going to make you pay every time you go for a takedown attempt. And it's not like Davy Grant's, like Curtis Blades, where that's all he cares about is getting you to the ground. He will stand and strike with you. And yes, his strikings look better, but he's nowhere near the level of striking that Jonathan Martinez is. This is just a really, really hard fight for Davy Grant.
Rebecca Middleditch has Grant in this one. Who else does? There's a few different people. Kyle Kelly, I'd love to see Dangerous Davey get the upset KO win here, but I don't see it. You got Martinez by points. Davy Martinez. Yeah, like the manager of the Nats. You're focusing on, holy smokes, Mr. Martinez. Jonathan.
There we go.
Met him one time. How are ya? Open -182. He's now -326. And if you look at Davy Grant, open +151. He's now +250.
It's a tough fight.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the juice has kind of been squeezed out of the Martinez line. I still like him in this fight, but yeah, this is a really tough one for poor old Davy Grant. It's awesome, too, to see that Martinez made weight here at 35.
It is, and I do think he's a guy, can you imagine Jonathan Martinez versus Kyler Phillips, how good that fight would be? There's so many good fights out there for Jonathan Martinez in the top 15 at 150, or at 135, it's not only a good weight class, just excitement-wise, all the matchups, but it's one that he fits in very well. So I'm really excited for him at 135.
Yeah, and I mean, if Scarecrow 586 gets the wish, yeah, hi, Jonathan Martinez, I'm going to get the win. And that's how I have it. I think Jonathan Martinez gets the win as Fight Night Picks goes ASMR. Matt, we like this fight. We love this fight. We have the Maritime's own, the fellow Maritimer. Really, he's an Atlanta Canadian because, originally from Newfoundland, but now out of Nova Scotia. Titans MMA and Bears Lake. Give it to him. You can check out Cart Bond, IMAX, Costco. There's a Kent's over there. There's all kinds of great stuff in Bears Lake. You can spend a whole day there, but Gavin Tucker's been spending his time in the gym, and now he's going to be taking on Dan Ige, who's coming off of a main event slot against Calvin Kattar where he got beat pillar to post. It just wasn't his fight. But stylistically, this one makes a lot of sense because both guys do a lot of the things similarly that the other one will do. You have Gavin Tucker coming out of a southpaw stance. He's looked great in all of his fights except, the Rick Glenn fight and in some of the other fights he's been kind of caught. Sung Woo Choi kind of got him at one point. The Justin James fight was just a knock him out, drag him out, great awesome affair. And Gavin Tucker, a real rising star at 34 years of age at a reach disadvantage against Dan Ige. It's weird, but I love the fight.
There's a lot of things I like about Gavin Tucker, and there's a lot of things I dislike about Gavin Tucker, just because of the fact that he is the oldest prospect since Eryk Silva. And I'm not going to compare the two because Eryk Silva, he had a better career, but also a worse career. I don't really know what kind of a career.
What about his brother, Gabriel Silva?
We don't really talk about that.
Free agent.
Exactly. So get him. Anyways, Gavin Tucker, there's a lot of things in his striking I do like. I like his footwork. I like his head movement. I don't like his chin, though, and that's going to really worry me when he does fight these upper echelon guys at 145. Dan Ige might not be able to take advantage of it. Now, Dan Ige has some really good hands and really decent power at the weight class, but I wouldn't liken him to a Josh Emmett kind of a power puncher or a Calvin Kattar or even an Edson Barbosa. Like, there's some guys in this weight division where when they hit you, you're just going to fall no matter what round it is. Dan Ige is one of those interesting, he's not all power, but he's got good volume, and he can mix it up between the two. He will throw, and I hate to compare him to a Nate Diaz, but he will throw combinations where it's kind of lighter shots, and then he'll put power behind some of them when he goes to the body and whatnot. He does show a good level of striking in his fights. This fight for me just completely comes down to cardio. If Gavin Tucker uses all of his footwork, if he's able to get away from shots in that first round, but he starts to tire in the second round, Dan Ige is going to put hands on him, and he's going to start to bring this fight closer. And as the fight progresses, he's going to make it close. Now, the weird thing about Tucker is I don't know if he has good cardio or bad cardio. Because you look at the Rick Glenn fight, he gets tired, and that's what leads to his downfall. You even look at the Justin James fight, he looks good, but the reason he was able to keep his cardio in that third round was he was really dominating with his wrestling. In the Billy Q fight, he got tired, but so did Quarantillo, and that was the weird thing. You don't really know how tired Tucker got because he had the better cardio of the two, but you could definitely tell that he slowed down in that fight. And when he does fight the upper echelon guys at 145, who do have endless gas tanks, who do have really good power, who do have the takedown defense, it's going to be tough for Tucker. But I will say this. He's fighting the easiest guy to beat in the top 15 of 145. And I don't mean that to diminish Dan Ige in any way, but you just look at what Dan Ige does. He's not really a specialist like most other guys are. Like Josh Emmett, he's what I'd call a power specialist. He's just going to defend every takedown you throw at him and try to land one bomb. And I don't care who you are. You could be a miniature horse. If he hits you in the chin, you're going to hit the ground. Dan Ige doesn't really have that kind of power. He's got good wrestling, but I wouldn't say he's got great wrestling. He's just kind of good at everything.
Division 3 wrestling.
Exactly, which is really good, don't get me wrong, but he's not the MMA wrestler like a Curtis Blades who just goes out there looking for the takedown. He can use it like a Justin Gaethje, kind of like a defensive wrestler and force the fight to be more of a striking exchange, or he can go for the takedown himself. If Gavin Tucker beats anyone in the top 15, it'll be Dan Ige, because Gavin Tucker himself is very well-rounded. So I do still have Dan Ige in this fight. I think it's a very, very close fight. Again, we don't have these fight of the nights because we think they're going to be really one-sided, but I'm just so excited for this fight. I think it's really evenly matched, and I do think both guys are going to have really exciting careers, win, lose, or draw, no matter what happens tonight.
People know that, listen, if you're a fan of the show, if you're always out there commenting, liking, subscribing, I take notice. We both do, and we try our best to try and engage with you. I gotta call out Anand Sharma, because you've been here all day, but you said Ige has 2 split decision wins, he sucks, and Ige is a bum, he should have lost to Barboza. Listen, I thought Barboza won the fight.
So did I.
But if you're gonna have a close fight against Edson Barboza and somehow convince the judges that you won, you're not a bum, you're just a smart guy, and you're a pretty darn good fighter. So, listen, it counts, wins or wins. Now, if I look at this one, again, we differ in the pick, let's have a look. 59% of Fight Night picks going with Gavin Tucker to 41% going Ige. The money's come in on Ige late. We saw him open to minus 145. He got up to a minus 133. He's now minus 154. And for Gavin Tucker, the underdog, right now at a plus 128. I have I have Tucker.
Oh.
But I love the fight. Again, for me, it's Tucker. It's the combinations, and it's the footwork. And I think he can keep it going late now. If Ige can mix in the wrestling and tire out Gavin Tucker, then we'll see. If Dan Ige can get on top and force Gavin Tucker down, we'll see, because nobody's really been able to do that.
Exactly.
Other than Rick Glenn, who opened it up with a strike.
Now, here's the thing I will say. This fight could look really bad for both of us prediction-wise, because Dan Ige could go out there, defend 2 takedowns, and crack Gavin Tucker upside the head and knock him out clean. Or Gavin Tucker could go out there, completely style on Dan Ige in the striking, make him miss a lot, and get him tired. I'm just thinking that the more likely scenario is Dan Ige's going to defend some takedowns, mix in his own, and maybe get TKO late.
All right, Matt. We'll move into our co-main event of the evening. And listen, while we're in the co-main event, Matt, we got to talk about something. Because I said from the start I'd talk about my nuts.
Oh, good.
And COVID spring break is right around the corner. And you know what that means, Matt. Spring break in your pants. Manscaped's here to ensure that the party in your pants never stops. Even Veronica Corningstone wouldn't say no to this pants party. For everyone preparing for a pants party this spring break, I have an exclusive 20% off discount. Use the promo code FMP at manscaped.com, Matt. We've all been there. We're trimming our nuts in the shower. We're using the Lawnmower 3.0 with the light. And before we were using that, nicking our nuts.
Oh, constantly.
We were getting into all sorts of grooming accidents. But you use that Lawnmower 3.0, and it's going to eliminate all of those issues for you. It's going to do the job. It's going to do the trick. So I love the fact that, listen, I've been able to use this since I got it back in what? We've been rocking the ad since what, December?
It's been a while now.
I haven't charged this yet. I mean, listen, they talk about it all the time. It has a great charging stand. You show it off to your friends, your family. You're on a Zoom call. Maybe people see what they don't want to see, but they do want to see this in the bathroom. Manscaped, they're dedicated to helping you level up your full body grooming game. You get that perfect package 3.0 kit with that lawnmower 3.0 like I talked about. I mean, listen, I got to throw it over to the chat. Gussie Casillas is saying yawn, but listen, you want to hear about this stuff, Gussie, because it's great stuff. You got bush, you got to get rid of it. You can adjust the settings on the length if you'd like with that. You don't want to ruin spring break vibes or upcoming summer with peaking pubes coming out of your swimsuit. They've got the weed whacker. Boom. You've seen me use that in my nose, in the shows. There's all sorts of great stuff in the perfect package as well. You get the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant as well as a Crop Reviver Ball Toner. Spritz some of that stuff on. You take the Crop Preserver, slap that stuff on, and it works great for you. So make sure you check them out. For a limited time right now, subscribers are going to get 2 free gifts. The Shed travel bag that Matt had up with him there, and the patented high performance reduced chafing Manscaped boxers to get 20% off. And free shipping with code FNP at manscaped.com. Do yourself a favor and always use the right tools for the job. We'll throw that Gut Bush ad up one more time. And into thin air saying dedication, 100%. And Jacob Weaver gets it. You want to trim the shower. That's the way to do it. Now, Matt, one guy that wasn't trimming in the shower getting ready for this one, and that picture does lie, is the fact that Misha Cirkunov, he's rocking that luscious chest here. He's got a little bit of scruff. He's got some head hair going. Misha Cirkunov's not out here to be anybody's friend. He's going full Alice Cooper. No more Mr. Nice Guy. And he's no more Mr. Clean with body hair. So, really, for Misha Cirkunov, great look. For Ryan Spann, almost missing weight. Not a great look. Don't
Very
love
bad
that.
one.
It's not good. So for both of these guys, you expect a possibility of a finish, 100%. But who's going to be able to get it? Because Ryan Spann, long, rangy guy for this division. He can strike well enough. His takedown defense is pretty good. His takedown offense is good, but, like, it's good, and then he gets knocked out by Carl Roberson with crazy elbows. He gets knocked out by Johnny Walker with crazy elbows. And Misha Cirkunov, listen, this guy gets knocked out too. So both guys adept at, well, getting finished, but it's against fairly good fighters. And I still consider Carl Roberson a fairly good fighter.
I
And
don't consider Johnny Walker a great fighter.
that one was a number of years ago. But I look at this one and I agree with Laos Nan and the fact that I've got the Torontonian, the Latvian Canadian, as the first leg of my question mark kicks parlay. I have Misha Cirkunov here.
I really like Cirkunov in this fight. And here's the thing with Brian Spann. He's a good striker, but you do any research on him, he is much more of a grappler than he is a striker. And he uses his striking to get into grappling scenarios. He will strike his way into the clinch and then go for takedowns. Why would he go for a takedown against a guy like Misha Cirkunov? He's probably the best grappler in this weight division. And I understand the Jimmy Crute fight was a little while ago, but I think Jimmy Crute is... He's going to be a guy in the top 10 for a really long time at 205, and maybe that's more of a conversation about how poor 205 is as a division, but Jimmy Crute's still a really good fighter, and Misha Cirkunov dominated him on the ground. It wasn't even close between those two. And the fact that he got him in a Peruvian necktie, which is a submission we've only ever seen twice in the UFC, just shows what kind of a grappler that Misha Cirkunov is. So I think Brian Spann to win this fight is going to have to force some kind of a grappling exchange, and he's going to be grappling one of the best grapplers in the division. So I like Cirkunov a lot. I understand he doesn't have a great chin. He does get rocked all the time. Like it's going out of style. Misha Cirkunov, let's be a baby deer like.
Jimmy didn't.
Jimmy didn't, exactly. And Jimmy's a good striker, and Jimmy Crute's also a really good grappler. And the domination that Cirkunov showed against him just really proved to me that Cirkunov's going to be able to go out there. I haven't liked him inside the distance, if I'm being honest. I know a lot of his losses are by knockout, but all his wins are by first round submission too, so I do like Cirkunov a lot.
Yeah, I like Cirkunov in this one, Matt. I mean, he's not even a huge favorite here, so I saw the value in it. He opened a minus 125, he's a minus 138. Spann opened a plus 105, he's now a plus 114. He weighed in over, and then they let him weigh in again, and he weighed in at the limit. So you like to see that, but you hate to see it at the same time. I have Misha Cirkunov as the first half of the question mark kicks parlay, and I have Leon Edwards as the second half. So you end up with about a plus 124 when I did it up and put the odds together. Leon Edwards taking on Bilal Muhammad. An awesome fight. Both guys stylistically match up so well. Leon Edwards is a lot taller. I know, listen, a lot of people kind of were hung up on the fact that is Leon Edwards 6 feet tall? Is he 6'2"? That was the whole conversation this week. Doesn't matter. You saw him at weigh-ins. He's taller and bigger than Bilal Muhammad, like off the hop. And you'd expect that rehydrating, he's going to be bigger. Now, listen, I think Muhammad's going to go out there and push a nice pace, and he can usually keep it. Now, we talked about it in the original prediction video, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that are going to talk about it over in the comments section. Listen, Bilal Muhammad's going to do the Aljamain Sterling thing. He's going to go balls to the wall at the start. He's going to fall off a cliff, and Edwards is going to take over. And that could happen. But Bilal Muhammad tends to have pretty good cardio. It's just, you're taking this fight on short notice. Your leg was halfway compromised against Diego Lima. And now you've got such a hard fight going 13-3 against Leon Edwards that, listen, you might not love the wins. You might not be overly convinced on Gunnar Nelson or RDA at this stage in the game. But it's not at this stage. It was at that stage of the game when they still mattered, and they were big wins for Leon Edwards. Even that Gunnar Nelson win for me really impressed me with the takedown defense and the fact that, listen, he didn't get out grappled by Gunnar, because that happens.
He out-grappled Gunnar. That was the wild thing.
He didn't get out-struck. So, yeah, I really like Edwards in this fight. It should be a great one, but I really like Edwards.
I can tell you a bunch of ways Leon Edwards wins this fight. I don't really know how Bilal Muhammad wins this fight. I understand he's got probably the better wrestling out of the two guys, but it's not like wrestling defense has been a big weakness for Leon Edwards in the past. And he looks massive now. Like, again, I don't know if mass is something that we really take into account when we think about fighters all the time, but he looks like he's gained a lot of weight since his last fight, and he's filled out tremendously. Now you're fighting a guy whose only chance to beat you is by taking you down, and you're way bigger and stronger than him. And Leon Edwards has always had really, really good cardio, too. He's a guy who can last a really hard 5 rounds, and now he's this much bigger. And if that does translate into power, could you imagine a Leon Edwards with his kind of striking, with his technique and accuracy, now with power behind his strikes? Like, Leon Edwards might just be the hardest matchup for Kamaru Usman. Maybe you thought that before, but now, if he can be impressive tonight, I really think he's going to prove it. I like Leon Edwards a lot in this fight.
Now, here's the question I have for you, because of course the commentary this week was Dana White saying if Leon Edwards gets an impressive win, he'll be next in line for a title shot. I don't like that. Like, I don't like if I'm Leon Edwards, now there's added pressure that, listen, if Edwards goes out there and dominates Bilal Muhammad and wins a decision, I don't think he gets a title shot. Like, for that, it's almost like, all right, you're fighting at the Apex, now it's a contender series type fight, and you have to go out there and finish him emphatically to prove to Dana White that you get a title shot.
Yes and no, because here's the thing. Dana White loved Kamaru Usman on the way up, and he didn't finish any fights. He just dominated them with his wrestling. And what he did to RDA, he didn't finish him, but he beat him as soundly as you can possibly beat someone without getting the finish. Though I think there is a world out there where Leon Edwards just puts on a complete masterclass, drops Bilal Muhammad like 4 times, but maybe he can't finish him. And yes, we can say that he is kind of the heir apparent to the throne, and he will be the #1 contender. I agree with you. I think he's going to need a finish tonight, and I think he's going to get one. I really do. I think Leon Edwards realizes that he is... The thing that's kind of held him back is, A, people just don't really like him. They don't like the whole Masvidal connection, and people really like Jorge Masvidal. But if Edwards can go out there and finish a guy like Bilal Muhammad, who is doing a great job promoting this fight, like Bilal Muhammad's kept his name in the headlines, he's been doing a really good job hyping this fight upward. Leon Edwards, really, the thing that's selling it for him is the fact that he is just a really, really good fighter. Leon needs to finish in this one. I think he'll be able to get it, and I do think we'll get that Usman-Leon Edwards fight at some point in 2021.
We both have Edwards in this one. At Fight Night Picks over on Instagram, 74% have Edwards, 285 total votes for Edwards to 102 for Bilal Muhammad. And listen, I love the fight. I think it's really great. If Muhammad goes out there quick, maybe tires out Leon Edwards. Who knows? I just don't see it coming. I personally have Edwards in this one. We'll rip down through the card one more time. 683 of you tuning in, 230 likes. We got to bump those likes up there. I want 300 before the end of this show. And I notice it. We need to get the subscribers going back up. We got some interesting stuff going on with Fight Night Picks. And it's not just using the promo code FNP25 to get 25% off your order at FightNightPicks.com. There's some interesting conversations going on in the background. So get ready for some more great content with Fight Night Picks. But Matt, our first fight on this card, Matthew Semelsberger, Jason Witt. I've got the underdog here.
I like Jason Witt in this fight. I really do.
Both of us with Jason Witt. Gloria De Paula taking on Jinh Frey. Going with De Paula.
I don't know if I'll ever pick Frey in the UFC. I'm sorry. I like De Paula a lot.
We've got Alex in the super chat.
Letting him know.
Thank you for the super chat. Apparently we have big members. Thank you. You're not my wife putting that out there. Courtney Casey taking on JJ Aldrich. I switched my pick. I'm going with Aldrich.
I like Aldrich. I really do. I just don't know what Casey can do to win this fight. I don't like her wrestling. I don't like her striking. I like Aldrich all day.
Maybe by submission, but I just don't see it. So I've got JJ Aldrich as well. Matt, our next fight, we have Nasrat Haqparast taking on Rafa Garcia. Awesome fight. Glad to see Rafa in the UFC. And if he gets a win, it's huge because he's been training, like I said, at Aruka Sport Training Lab. He helped Gaethje for his camp against Khabib. He went up to elevation. He could shock the world here, but I am going with Nasrat Haqparast, but I'm leaving it off my card.
Yeah, leaving it off the card for sure, but Haqparast has the speed advantage, and by quite a bit. I like Haqparast in this.
All right, Matt, our next fight, we have Ronnie Yahya taking on Rey Rodriguez. The most volatile fight on this card. I gotta say this, I don't think we talked about the odds here. I just said that they were kind of out to lunch. Ronnie Yahya, big favorite in this one at about a 3-1. I think that's silly. Rey Rodriguez could definitely finish him. I'm just still going with Ronnie Yahya because, I mean, he can get the submission. If it goes to the third round, yikes. Yikes.
It's a pop and popcorn for sure, but I do like Ronnie in this. I'm not going to say submission, but I think I'll do enough to at least win decision.
All right, Matt, we have Ronnie Yahya. Our next fight, Jourdain taking on Marcelo Rojo. And I love Rojo in the UFC too because he's an all-action guy. He does the Velociraptor thing. Watch John Castaneda after their fight. He mocked him. But I'm going with the Canadian this one. C'est Jourdain toujours.
It's going to be a great fight. That's all I know for sure, but I'm going to take Jourdain in this. I think his power will eventually win him this fight, but again, this is going to be a phenomenal fight.
All right, Matt, our next fight, we're going into a big one. We have the rematch of Angela Hill and Ashley Yoder, going with Angela Hill.
I like Hill a lot.
All right, Matt, our next fight, we have Eryk Anders taking on Darren Stewart. It's a tricky one, going with Darren Stewart.
I like Darren Stewart as a fighter. He might never win the title. Let me just say, he's never going to win the title, but he's always going to put on a fun fight. I like Darren Stewart.
All right, next fight, we have Manel Kape taking on Matheus Nicolau. That's another tricky one. There's so many tricky ones on this card, but going with the man who represents Portugal and Angola here, my guy, Manel Kape.
I like Nicolau as an underdog, but I'm going to stick with Kape.
All right, Matt, our next fight, we have Dave, still in the Navy Grant, taking on Jonathan Martinez. And I have the dragon here.
Yeah, Martinez, without a doubt, is going to win this fight. I like him a lot. Probably by stoppage.
All right, Matt. Next one. Dan Igue's taking on Gavin Tucker. A possible fight of the night. Let's go Canada going with Gavin Tucker.
We're going to be split on this. I still like Dan Ige. I think he'll be able to get it done. Again, this is a case of I think his striking is good enough to at least get to Gavin Tucker. Maybe drop him at some point. But yeah, I like Ige.
All right, Matt. Our next one. We have Misha Serkinov. This one, if he's got bush right now.
He does.
And he probably needs that Manscaped trimmer. Manscaped.com, promo code FMP, 20% off and free shipping. But for Misha Serkinov, with the body hair, we're taking him to win.
I like Serkinov, probably by submission too. I like him by stoppage.
All right, Matt, our next one in our main event, Leon Edwards taking on Bilal Muhammad. Great fight. In the Fight Night Picks Kicks parlay, I have Serkinov and I have Edwards. So yeah, going with Edwards.
I like Leon Edwards. Again, I think he knows he needs a stoppage. He needs to bring something big. He has to be entertaining tonight. I like him a lot in this fight.
Matt, big time show with Fight Night Picks Kicks. We'll have the recap for this event as always. John Franklin and I just had an episode of Early Stoppage last night. We banked it. I'm waiting on John Franklin to edit with the graphics, but we'll have that one out tomorrow. It's a great one. We talk about Tony Ferguson and his big-time fight coming up against Beneil Dariush, among other things. So make sure you check that one out as well. But yeah, the recap. We'll have the preview for next weekend's card. It's an all-action type as well. And then we're really getting set for UFC 260. 2 title fights, Volkanovski, Ortega, and you have the rematch between Francis Ngannou and Stipe Miocic. So there's a lot of stuff going on, including some behind-the-scenes stuff. Some exciting stuff with Fight Night Picks. So, keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, Matt. And as we always say, let's get into it.
Ladies and gentlemen, recorded in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. It's time for Fight Night Picks with your host, Craig and Matt.